Hello, Hoops heads, and welcome to the weekly Hoopla. Before I get started, I just wanted to give you a quick rundown on how this is going to work moving forward. Each week, I'm going to start with the latest injury news before moving into news and rumors, and then following it up at the end with a quick check-in on the league. That might change depending on where we are in the season. For now, we'll do the in-season tournament. But once that's over, we'll get into the actual meat and potatoes of the MVP races, or all the award races, the leaderboards, things like that. Having better sample sizes to actually get into the numbers. Now, all we really need to know is the news and the information that is relevant to each season. So, without further ado, let's jump into the injury news. I think probably one of the biggest injury concerns we've had so far, at least the one I ended up listing number one here, Steph Curry, had a quick little knee injury with Minnesota and against the game in Minnesota. No structural damage was found in the knee, thankfully, even though there was quite a bit of scare after it happened. He has missed a couple games and will likely miss probably what's only going to end up being about a week. So a huge sigh of relief for the Warrior fans. The biggest actual injury in terms of impact so far is likely going to be my second person here, Jamal Murray. On November 4th, he suffered hamstring strain that is just now going to get him back on the court, which isn't really that long of a time. When it first happened, we were definitely a little more concerned. But at this point, he will be joining the team on a 5-game road stint, and so likely will return during that time. The third person on this list, Mr. C.J. McCollum, had a very unfortunate injury, one he has had a similar issue on before, had a partially collapsed lung. Not a lot of specific on this, exactly if it's related to the former time that he had this injury that was due to a physical contact on the court, or if this is completely unrelated, something he's susceptible to, whatever. And though it does sound terrible to people like me that don't have medical degrees, it's actually not that big of a deal at this point, and his reevaluation period is set for the end of the month, so he's likely probably going to be back early mid-December. That was pretty unfortunate for the Pelicans, mostly because Zion and Brandon Ingram are struggling to play consistent minutes and play consistently well in those minutes. So CJ McCollum and Jonas Valanciunas has been very useful to start the season. Unfortunately, CJ will be missing about a month here, but maybe that gives the younger Pelicans enough time to grow into their own before he returns. And probably the weirdest injury news, our fourth player to mention here, is Kelly Oubre, who's making a lot of news with his injury. Kelly Oubre was hit by a vehicle coming into his apartment complex while riding a bike. He did not sustain any life-threatening issues, just a broken rib, as it would appear. Police reports are kind of being the controversial issue here, where the police say they don't actually have any evidence of what's happened, and Oubre can't exactly remember where exactly it happened. And then on the other side of this, you have the Ring camera from his apartment being leaked to TMZ and published online for us to see him hobbling in with his bike, clearly in a lot of pain. And then the recording also catches him telling someone in the house that he was hit by a car. So weird story in a lot of ways, long story of it short for the basketball fans. Although Kelly Oubre is off to an amazing start to this season, he will still miss a little bit more time, most likely early to the mid-December for him as well. Again, though, when it comes to getting hit by a car, hopefully there's no wild shit that's coming of this story, but, I think a broken rib is about as lucky as you're going to get there. Another person's off to a hard start, Cam Thomas, scoring machine in Brooklyn, had an ankle injury that ended up being a severe strain on the 8th. He's likely out until December as well. Pretty much just going to put Brooklyn down into a position where they have to play the best defense they can to give themselves chances right now, with a little bit of a limited scoring option play out there. I mean, you don't really have a number one scorer on that team. You have a lot of talented auxiliary players, high-level auxiliary players. Maybe Mikal Bridges takes another leap throughout the season. But at this point, Cam Thomas's shot making is definitely missed in Brooklyn. and they will need him back quickly. But the more important issues coming out of BK are Ben Simmons's back issues. Ben Simmons had been off to a decent start. I mean, anything is better than nothing, I guess, is where I would look at it for Ben to start the season. However, now we're looking at probably another back issue delaying his season. It's sort of an unknown when he'll be back. I guess my biggest concern when it comes to Ben is not necessarily is this online rhetoric about is he faking it, whatever it is. Now at this point, I'm concerned that it is a lingering back issue, and whether or not he wants to play basketball doesn't even matter because lingering back issues have derailed a lot of careers. Dwight Howard probably being the most recent. Obviously, Dwight could still be a really useful player after those injuries, but it severely diminished what he was able to do and who he was able to actually be in the last decade of his career. So it'll be interesting to see what that is. Maybe it's just a little thing, but hopefully it's not a sign of something worse. Miami Heat, we're off to a pretty abysmal start, but had been getting positive returns for Tyler Hero, despite all the rumors this offseason. While the Heat have gotten back to their winning ways, Tyler Hero has missed a few games now and will be out for another couple of weeks with a rolled ankle issue. Again, Miami's a team that can scrap it out. You're never going to have a problem with Eric Spoelstra playing his two-way guys. You're never going to have an issue with Miami resting dudes anyway. I mean, Bam and Jimmy have kind of taken turns a little bit to start this season as well. So not a huge deal there, but it would still probably likely be a mid-December-ish return for Tyler Hero. The Rookie of the Year race has pretty much been Victor Wembanyama runaway and will likely continue to be that, though there's other talented rookies that we talked about on the podcast this week that might actually be close enough to him to make it interesting. Two of the guys that were favorites going into the season, Amen Thompson and Scoot Henderson are both sidelined early to start the season. Amen Thompson just going to have a little bit of an ankle sprain that stopped his early progress, but he'll be back probably this week. I think he's already listed his day-to-day, so not playing Friday night, but will end up back in the lineup, I'm sure, by the next time I record. Portland, on the other hand, is not just dealing with Scoot's injury, which now has him out for another 2 to 3 weeks, as that report was updated, I believe, yesterday. His ankle injury seems to be a little more severe. Blazers have a different need long-term than some other teams, let's say. And so perhaps they should take this extra careful, especially given that we know, hey, there's a hell of a basketball player already probably locking in that Rookie of the Year. Their issues are probably more around Anthony Simons having thumb surgery to start the season, on track for a mid-December return, but of course that could really bleed in almost to the new year. You never know. If it does, that continues to look bad for Portland's start to the season, which might look good to their front office, but hey, we don't speculate on tanking here, whether it's obvious or not. Rob Williams, that's the bigger issue and probably why Boston wanted to go ahead and make this swap with Kristaps Porzingis, knowing his health issues are already a concern, not like they weren't already dealing with that with Rob Williams. And here we are, not 15 games into the season, and he's done and will have a season-ending surgery. So we hope that he can get back to playing. That was also a big trade chip that I think a lot of people are going to be looking forward to. So that's off the board. And we're just hoping that a very talented five can get back and healthy again, because if he does, Portland, either in the future or in someone's now present, might end up taking a shot at a flyer on this guy. And could be a high value player if he can just stay healthy one day. The next team facing a lot of injuries to start the season be the Detroit Pistons. Starting off the season with both Bojan Bogdanovic and Monte Morris sidelined. Morris should be back probably within the week or so, where Bogdanovic is probably still another month-ish out from actually getting back on the court. So That's probably not hurting the Pistons in the same way that it's not hurting Trailblazers. But I think for the trade assets, you're looking at Morris and you're looking at Bogdanovich as two guys you could really end up moving on from and bringing back something that can help you clear out a little of this roster. That doesn't make a lot of sense at the moment. So just a note there. So probably not that surprising. I think actually probably more of the injury issues that they're dealing with is the in and out of Jalen Duren to start the season, even though he's looked amazing for the most part. The Orlando Magic started off hot, still look like a great team, got a big, tough win and an important win that we'll talk about a little bit later over the Bulls last night. Wendell Carter, though, has been out for a few games now after having a hand surgery on the 4th of the month. So his reevaluation period is at the end of this month, which means, again, he's probably not slated back till maybe the end of that next month. So a lot of progress still to be made when it comes to his injury. Markelle Fultz is the more concerning one. Fultz had a little bit of a lingering knee issue, sidelined him for a little bit. Now it's turned into a more mysterious long-term thing. Fultz looked like he was everything they needed and more. I know that this has helped clear up room for Anthony Black to start playing minutes, and that's not a problem either. But this is really just disappointing, I guess, more from an NBA standpoint to see Markelle Fultz injured again. So hopefully it's not too big of a deal, and he's back on the court soon, so that he can be either one of Orlando's future or in someone else's future that could use him sooner. The final two teams we'll talk about are not teams anyone's going to throw a pity party for, but still relevant to talk about this far. The Lakers have been without Jared Vanderbilt for the start of the season. This is sort of their defensive utility player. Maybe you could question what his use is in the playoffs, but as far as what we know historically, he's a very useful regular season player that could be absolutely detrimental to this older roster staying healthy for the rest of the season. He is listed day-to-day now, so most likely he will start playing again within a week or two. The Gabe Vincent injury is probably a little more concerning. That was one of the more prized free agents, not a big number, but a really good contract, a really good utility player, ideally fit really well with this roster. Vincent has an issue that already has cost him a few games, and now that timeline has been extended to 2 weeks or so. So now you basically have this, I don't know, timeline with Gabe Vincent, and maybe there's some trade rumors and stuff that this could be connected to, but in my theory, I think this is just playing it safe. Gabe Vincent didn't have a great shooting season last year and then helped Miami make it to the NBA Finals. So I think that's probably where the Lakers are if they don't actually have the thought of trading him soon. Rui and AD have missed some time. AD only, I believe, just missed the one game against Houston, which they got throttled. His woes have been a little bit more consistency than injury, but of course that is tied up to those things. I think they're mutual to some extent. We'll see how that's gone. Rui's got back into the flow of things. His minutes are back up to where they should be. I think maybe his lingering issue coming into the season is why his minutes were low to start the season. And now you're seeing him return to the role we kind of assumed he would be in. And then finally, the Phoenix Suns, the super team, the newest super team on the block, has still not debuted in the regular season. We got to see a little bit in the preseason, but still no Booker, KD, and Beal for the regular season. Last night, we were supposed to get our first taste of it, and then Brad Beal was scratched last minute. Beal's back, and Booker's calf have been most of the issue, while Kevin Durant has played pretty well, handled this team. I mean, they're not winning a ton of games at this moment. You don't love the start they're on, but ultimately he's keeping them carrying water long enough for these two guys to get back. I'm hoping to see by the next time we talk that we've all seen the first regular season game of this new power trio, but frankly, who the hell knows? Moving on, news and rumors. You've probably seen it by now, but Draymond Green, and well, if you listen to the podcast, you've already heard us talk about it. Draymond Green did some Draymond Green shit and got it suspended for 5 games. We already kind of talked about the fight. Not too much more I could say on this other than Draymond's going to Draymond. I think the worst thing for him, in my opinion, is that Antonio Brown tweeted out that Draymond Green is Antonio Brown. So I don't know if that is a reflection on maybe that's the point where Draymond's finally like looking internally on this thing. But we talked about it. The video is kind of hilarious. Obviously, now that no one got hurt, it's really funny. He just ran up and was like, nope, now is my time to get Rudy's ass. So go watch that if you haven't. Klay Thompson, Jaden McDaniels, and Rudy Gobert were all fine because of the incident. No one else was suspended. And the funniest part to me is he only gets suspended for 5 games according to the league because of his past behavior. So they didn't even really care that much. It was just because it was Draymond being Draymond. They were like, well, fuck, we have to give him 5 games. So I thought 5 games was kind of light, even if it wasn't Draymond. So whatever. Doesn't matter to me. It wasn't that big a deal either, you know, but I thought they'd be a little more strict on him, especially after last season, but whatever. News that's kind of interesting. Andre Iguodala is now the new acting NBA PA executive director, taking over for, and I'm probably going to butcher this name, but Tamika Tremaglio, something like that. My apologies. Who stepped down. This is most likely as a result of the CBA that many have theorized will cut the NBA's middle class out pretty hard, where a lot of the top end players will be getting a lot of money. A lot of the bottom end players, then there'll just be a giant bottom part of this that'll just be scrumming up for the last bit of change, and then basically no one in the middle anymore. So this isn't that surprising. A formal search will take place, so Andre Iguodala may not stay the acting, or may be an interim only. We'll see. I do think Iggy actually probably does make a lot of sense here for a few different reasons. He's a great business person, as everyone's always noted. He's had a long and very interesting career as a nice prospect who turned into a high-level role player, almost looked like a superstar on his own, and then never quite reached that apex, was an all-star, was a great utility player on championship teams. And of course, you know, as we've said, is clearly someone who can handle the business side of relationships. So not a bad choice there to represent the guys, although too little too late on that CBA. We'll see what it looks like moving forward. In news, I'm not happy to report Miles Bridges is back and will play for the Hornets on Friday night. This comes as, unfortunately, the legal issues that he is facing are so tied up that ultimately the year and 20 games or 15 games that he's going to have missed ultimately as a result of all these things are going to be essentially considered time served by the NBA. Of course, there was a new incident that just happened that caused us to think, okay, maybe they're going to come down harder. Well, now all we're getting is general statements saying, well, we're going to work with the law enforcement and with the league offices, and we think Miles can play until then. So sports business is going to be sports business. Miles called it his first day back at school and said that if he just scores a bunch of points, this will make it all go away. Not sick, but he said it. There you go. That actually is a reflection of essentially what his head coach said about a week ago or earlier in this week when he was first asked, hey, Miles can be back soon. Will he be back soon? He basically said, yeah, I don't care about all that. I think he can score. We need some scoring. Let's do it. Sports business is going to be sports business. So on to the parts of sport business that we actually enjoy. Trade rumors. Chicago lost last night to the Orlando Magic, which has got to be one of the more triggerable statements I could say to any Bulls fans out there. Of course, Orlando was the team that they traded with for Nikola Vucevic and basically locked themselves into this unfortunate team that now looks like it's on the verge of spontaneous combustion. That's not that spontaneous. And while it's largely credited to Lonzo Ball's horrific knee injuries, I think there was some stuff that Lonzo even couldn't have fixed, but whatever. Don't have to go there. At this point, it's pretty obvious that some change needs to happen. I think most of the general fans are thinking, blow the motherfucking shit up. Just blow it all up. Just explode. it looks like Chicago's kind of putting out statements to the otherwise, where maybe Caruso, DeRozan, Vucevic would all stay, and that whatever they get back from a LaVine trade would be ultimately the newest way forward for the Chicago Bulls franchise instead of a complete rebuild. I think that probably lines up with what the picks look like, but I don't necessarily know that that's the best move at the moment. LaVine obviously is the person that needs to go if you're going to do that, so I at least respect that. Zach's a great scorer, needs to be on a great defensive team. Miami, LA, Philly, just off top. I mean, Toronto was poised. I think Toronto's an interesting choice as well. Adding offense to a capable defensive team, yes. Adding him to a team like that's offensively driven, not so much, right? It's already offensively potent. You're just not adding the right sauce, the right spice to the sauce, right? The clutch strategy, which of course Zach LaVine is a clutch part of the clutch mafia, is already in full effect. He had an LA hat. Of course, he is an LA kid, but he had an LA hat, which the timing of is just impeccable. He shot fairly poorly last night and then hit a game-tying shot right before Paolo Banchero's game-winning shot. So an interesting kind of trade me game where it's like, is he in the flow of the offense based off his shooting? No, it doesn't look like it. But then all of a sudden, oh shit, the game's close. We've been playing well enough. Trade value. Let's get it up. Billy Donovan says he hasn't requested any trades. LaVine says that he's used to being in this, and it has been for years, which is actually really fair for him because he has been in trade rumors pretty much since he got into the league, as he was kind of looked at as the odd man out in those early Minnesota years and ended up being the odd man out in the Jimmy Butler trade that got him in Chicago's wasteland of mediocrity. DeMar DeRozan's also away from the team right now. That seems to be a potential personal issue that I would warn people to be calm about actually reacting to. James Harden had a similar situation just a few weeks ago. There was reports that his mother was ill. Maybe she wasn't, maybe she was. We don't really know these things, and most times we never will. I would very, 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 very much caution people not to get into that. If someone's lying about this kind of stuff, just let them live with it. If it becomes public, then you can react. Until then, you shouldn't assume that. Ultimately, I don't know how long a trade would make. I don't really know who I would put in that runner spot. I haven't done any trade machine things yet, but I do think ultimately LaVine will be moved probably sooner than later. And I would not be surprised if it was a pivot to keep the team, though Alex Caruso is a highly coveted player, though I think DeMar DeRozan would be still a nice trade asset to one of the teams that loses out on LaVine. So we'll see. An interesting case that's not necessarily related to any active players, but is interesting nonetheless, the NBA world. 2 years back, I think, we found out about a health insurance fraud scam run by a few ex-NBA players. I think also tied in with some other pro athletes, but pretty good handful of ex-NBA players were involved in this. I don't exactly know where everyone got off and where everybody has gotten to the legal process of this, but as it's wrapping up, it looks like only 2 people have actually been charged with anything or convicted of anything. Glenn Big Baby Davis being the leader in the clubhouse, taking home 4 counts, wire fraud, healthcare fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, and of course, conspiracy to make false statements. And Will Bynum, former guard for the Pistons, acquitted on the fraud conspiracy case, but was found guilty on making false accusations. So if you don't know much about the story, essentially they just were bullshitting and getting, they were getting a bunch of fake, dental surgeries done and then pocketing the cash. It was, I think, found out because like 6 of them all ended up having the same surgery on the same day. So it was just really careless fraud as well. So just if you like that kind of shit, go look into it more. It's kind of one of those stupid criminals thing. And if you know anything about Big Baby Davis, you're probably not that surprised that this is how it ends, or this is how the Wikipedia page is going to finish up for him. Most likely. Final news: Daniel Theis has been bought out by the Indiana Pacers and will likely clear waivers and sign with the Clippers by the time you're looking at this, though I guess that's always subject to change a little bit. I'm interested in this move. Of course, Mason Plumlee, an injury I did not mention earlier for a reason, has probably will miss about a month and a half, maybe even into January. Clippers are very thin. Obviously, that happens when you have three guys on big fat daddy contracts. And you still have a nice, chunk of other role players. Just don't have a lot of bigs. You need someone to rotate with Zubac. So very happy that they did this. Now, whenever healthy, they'll have a white boy formula at the 5, right? You'll have a big man rotation that's the full spectrum of the white boy big man. You got Zubac, who is the foreign big man, representing that group. Not quite Nikola, right? I think Nikola transcends this particular list, but you know what I mean? He's in that bracket. Then you have Mason Plumlee. You have the former college super stud big man, corn-fed American white boy. Doesn't have much skills, but you know what? He's got a little bit of fundamentals and a whole lot of heart. And then Daniel Theis, another foreign-born player, but one that is more of the new modern switchable big with a little bit of shooting capability, just a teeny bit of shooting capability. And you never know, a hot streak or maybe this rotation can help them. And of course, we can never forget that they have Terrence Mann and PJ Tucker, who probably will both play small ball 5 at multiple parts of the season. So interesting rotations there. There's a lot to get into Clippers land. I'm going to not jump down that rabbit hole just yet. I am going to listen to James Harden and give them a little bit of time. But James, if it doesn't work out, you're getting reamed. Sorry, bud. But you got a week at least. Wrapping up the show, I just wanted to get a quick IST tournament check-in. Of course, the in-season tournament seems to be getting dubbed the IST. Not the most clever name in the world, but we're going to laugh at it with them or at them. And so far, so fun, but kind of a kooky schedule. Again, I think I talked about it last time when I broke down the actual tournament. This probably won't be the schedule for next season. It doesn't feel like it was. It feels like this was rushed in a lot of ways. And then next year, they'll bring it back with a lot more reasonable scheduling, because we've already got eliminated teams that have played. We've already got teams that have played 3 games compared to teams that played 1 game, and we're like supposed to be halfway through the actual tournament seeding games. So very, very, very strange how this has started. But we'll just break down the brackets real quick here. At least the leaders in the clubhouse about midway through the tournament, the seeding parts, the group stage. Eastern A is Indiana, starting off at 2-0. They still have to go to Atlanta and then play the Pistons at home, but they are leaders in the clubhouse. In the Eastern A group, the Eastern B group is going to be Miami. Like I said, Miami off to a bad start, but have been taking their own division and this tournament seriously enough where they are now 2-0. They will finish up at New York and at home versus Milwaukee. So a much stronger schedule than what Indiana is handling, but still nonetheless doable for a Miami Heat team, depending on where you catch these teams, right? EC is probably the most open right now just because the Celtics are one of the better teams in basketball, but they're only 1-0 in tournament play. So they still have to go to Toronto, go to Orlando, and then come back home for a Chicago game in their group stage. So while I still feel pretty confident about them doing that, there's still quite a lot of work to do, even though they are still the leaders in the clubhouse. I think that's just based off a point differential and probably that they're the only group with a win in that, I think, or without a loss. Western Group A is Los Angeles Lakers at 2-0. They probably feel likely to win this as they have to go to Portland and then host the Jazz to finish out their group play. So you have to feel pretty good about the Lakers being able to go 4-0, which I think will pretty much be able lock. I mean, to get in at this point. Although who knows what this will end up looking like. I wouldn't be surprised if the NBA really didn't think this through and we have way too many teams and a bunch of funky tiebreakers. The Western B, this is going to be the Nuggets at 2-0. They're going to finish off at New Orleans and then over in Houston, having hosted their first 2 games, but their point differentials in both of those have been very nice. So it is very likely that the Nuggets will also win their group even without Jamal Murray, at least so far. Probably will return during this road trip, like we said earlier. The Western C group is led by the Wolves, who have been off to a really nice start get this season going. They'll host Sacramento and they'll host the Thunder, which is very lucky in the hosting terms. The competition-wise, that is a little bit steep. Fox is back. The Kings are healthier, looking nice, looking like they're pretty much back where they were last year in the regular season. And the Thunder are very hit and miss, but when they hit, they definitely look like a playoff team this year. So it would be interesting to see what that matchup actually ends up looking like. Of course, Chet, Rudy Gobert will be a fun matchup for everyone to watch. And then the wild cards right now, the Hawks at 1-0. So probably not the strongest lead there with 3 games left, especially because that'll be in Philly, in Indiana, and then hosting Cleveland. So definitely not a lock to retain that wild card spot they currently have. However, an interesting one that still probably won't keep it, but is interesting that they're here. Despite not having a great record, the Utah Jazz are 2-0 in tournament play and would currently be the Western wild card participant. They have to go to Phoenix, or they have to host Phoenix, then they have to go to the Lakers to finish off this run. Again, not likely to win those 2 games, I would say, just based off of general thought. But, of course, injuries, who knows what it's an off night, whatever it is. So Utah currently there. And then we only have 1 eliminated team so far, the Memphis Grizzlies, 0-3. Not a surprise there. Lots of injuries going on there. We didn't cover the Marcus Smart thing. That whole team could also be included on this, but I think I'll probably just wait till next week to get to all of that because it'll be a little more clear. And if you watch basketball, you kind of know the Grizzlies suck right now. And it's kind of John Morant's fault. And then there's a whole John Morant legal case that's also still going on top of his suspension. So plenty of Grizzlies talk to come. Until next time, that has been the Weekly Hoopla. Please, please, please like and subscribe. Share this to all of your sports fans. And please, for the love of God, comment something absolutely ridiculous below this. Tell Patrick he's doing a great job, and then just roast me if you want. I don't give a shit. Just fucking comment. Love you guys.